Your calendar is broken. And I don't mean broken like it needs a fix. I mean broken like nobody told you it was broken. For 1,400 years, Muslims have been using a calendar that shifted every single year. While every other civilization on Earth, the Hebrews, the Chinese, the Romans figured out how to keep their months locked to seasons, we did the opposite. Today, we're finding out the reality of the so-called Islamic calendar, and it changes everything about how you understand the religion. This is the follow-up video here on the Koran Alone channel to our previous video about how Ramadan is not supposed to be 30 days of fasting. If you haven't seen that video, I strongly suggest you watch that first and come back to this one. Seriously, this builds on that. Go watch it. But if you're still here because you already know about the numbered days argument from the Quran, then you're ready for this question. If Ramadan is not when everyone says it is, then when is it? And the answer? It's locked to a season, a specific season. Every calendar on Earth figured this out except ours. We live in 2026. We have smartphones, GPS. We can track satellites. And yet raise your hand if you've ever tried to plan something for a specific Hijri calendar month and had no idea what season it would fall in. You don't even know if it's going to be hot or cold. You don't know if it's going to be harvest time or planting time. You just don't know. We're the only civilization that said, let's make our calendar completely useless for daily life. Is that an accident? No. It's because people changed it. And that something is sitting right here in the historical record. The Arabic lunar calendar originally had what's called a leap month. Not a leap day, a leap month. And this wasn't some random invention. Every lunar calendar system in history had to solve the same math problem. The gap between the lunar year and the solar year. That gap is 11 days. Every year. 11 days of missing time. After 32 months, those 11 days add up to one full month. Add a full month back. Lock everything to the seasons. Problem solved. The Hebrews solved it. The Chinese solved it. The pre-Islamic Arabs solved it. The Prophet didn't change this system. And then, someone stopped using it. Why would we stop doing math that works? We will answer that later in the video. But first, let's see what the Quran says, chapter 9, verse 36. Indeed, the number of months with Allah is 12 months in the register of Allah from the day He created the heavens and the earth. Stop. Think about that sentence. Why does Allah specify 12? Why not 11? Why not 13? The answer is in the math. In one complete rotation of Earth around the Sun, the maximum number of lunar months you can fit is 12. Exactly 12. No more. Embedded in that verse, and that specific number, is a reference to the solar year. Allah isn't saying, use only the moon and ignore the sun. He's saying the relationship between them is already built into the number 12. Now look at chapter 10, verse 5. It is He who made the sun a shining light and made the moon a derived light, and determined for it phases, that you may know the number of years and the account of time. Phases. That word in the Arabic, manazil, doesn't just mean the visual phases of the moon. It means the position of the moon in the sky, among the stars and constellations. The Quran is telling us, use the sun to track years. Use the moon to track months. Use the moon's position to know where you are in the year. Both, together. Not one without the other. But here's what we did. We took the sun completely out of the equation. We threw away the leap month. And now we have a calendar that cannot tell you what season you're in. But the Quran says this shouldn't happen. The Hijri months have names. Arabic names. And almost all of them describe seasons. Rabi means spring. Rabi al-Thani means second spring. These months come one after another. Their names describe spring in the northern hemisphere. Then comes Jumada. The Arabic root, it means no water. It means drought. It describes the dry season after spring, early summer. Then Shaban. The word means the tribes scatter among the narrow pathways in the mountains, searching for water. That's late summer. Heat. Desperation for water. Then Ramadan. The root word Ra-Mim Dao means the heat of the sun on stone. It means scorching. It refers to the burning end of summer, the transition to autumn. Then Shawwal. It means the time for the breeding of camels. That's autumn when breeding season begins, and animals are ready for travel. Why would someone name a month the heat if that month wasn't actually hot? Or have months with names that were seasonal if the calendar didn't care about seasons? Why would you call a month the time of scattering in search of water if there was water everywhere? You wouldn't. These names are proofs that the months were locked to specific seasons. The calendar itself is telling you someone has messed with the calendar if the months shift through. all the seasons backward through winter, spring, summer, fall, winter again. And why give them seasonal names? The answer is simple: because they didn't shift. They stayed put. The leap month kept them in place. And when the leap month disappeared, the names became meaningless. But they remained, like a fossil, like evidence at a crime scene. The calendar is confessing what it used to be. Here's where it gets real. We can check this. The Quran mentions events, specific battles, and it gives us climate details about those battles. If we convert those Quranic dates to solar dates using modern converters, we should see a match. The climate mentioned in the Quran should match the climate in that month. But here's the problem. The converters don't account for the leap month, so they give us wrong dates, and the climates don't match. The mismatch is the evidence. Chapter 9, verse 81. The Battle of Tabuk. The verse says, "They said, 'Do not go forth in the heat.' Say, the fire of hell is more intensive in heat." The battle happened in the 9th year of the Hijra, in the month of Rajab. According to the Quranic calendar, with a leap month, Rajab falls in midsummer, around August, the hottest part of the year. That matches. The Quran says it was hot. Rajab was hot. But when you plug the date into the modern converter, the one without the leap month, it tells you Rajab fell in late October, November, not even close to summer. The math ain't mathing. Now someone will ask, if the leap month was always there, why did we stop using it? Great question. And the answer is in Quran 9:37. The verse of Nasi. Many scholars point to this verse and say, see, Allah forbids the leap month. They interpret it as Allah saying, don't correct the calendar. Let's see what the verse says indeed. The postponement of the sacred month is an increase in disbelief by which those who have disbelieved are deluded. They make it lawful one year and unlawful another year to correspond with the number of months that Allah has made sacred. Thus they make lawful what Allah has made unlawful. Read that carefully. The verse is not talking about adding months. It's talking about moving the sacred months, changing which months are forbidden. The disbelievers would say, this month is sacred this year, and then next year they'd say, no, that month isn't sacred anymore. This one is sacred. They were manipulating the sacred months, breaking the rules, not fixing the calendar. The verse has nothing to do with the leap month. But somehow, over time, scholars misinterpreted this verse to mean, don't correct the calendar. And so the leap month was abandoned. These scholars. Once the leap month disappeared, everything fell apart. The months started drifting. Spring turned into summer. Summer turned into winter. And nobody stopped to say, wait, this doesn't match the month names anymore? We just accepted it. And we're still accepting it 14 centuries later. In the current broken calendar, Ramadan is a lottery. Some years you fast 11 hours. Some years you fast 20 hours. Some years it's moderate. Some years it's extreme. Someone in the UK fasts for nearly 16 hours and breaks their fast at 10 p.m. They barely have time to sleep before they have to eat again. 2 a.m. as the Quran says, until the white thread of dawn becomes distinct to you from the black thread of night. That's another thing the scholars messed up, the timings of the fast, and moved it to the call to prayer when the Quran says something totally else. But that's a subject for another video. While someone in Australia fasts for 8 hours the same year, is that fair? The Quran says, Allah intends for you ease and does not intend for you hardship. And that verse, that specific verse, is attached to the verse about fasting. How is fasting 20 hours ease? How is medical hardship ease? Kidney problems, dehydration, exhaustion. These are the things people experience when fasting in extreme conditions. The Quran didn't intend this. With the leap month, Ramadan always falls around the autumn equinox, September into October, the time when day equals night everywhere on earth. So what does that mean? It means everyone fasts the same hours. About 11 to 13 hours, moderate, manageable. The same everywhere on earth, northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, the equator. Everyone. The climate is moderate. Not scorching, not freezing, just right. You can read Quran at night. You can think. You can engage in the spiritual purpose. You're not just trying to survive the heat. That's the original design. That's what the calendar was supposed to do. And we lost it because someone messed up on one verse. So what do? We can't just wake up tomorrow and change the Islamic calendar. But here's what we can do. We can understand, we can research, we can think. We can spread the awareness. This requires something hard. It requires being willing to be wrong about something you've believed your whole life. It requires reading the evidence without defensiveness. Most people can't do that. Most people choose comfort over truth. But you're here. You're listening. Which means you already know that comfort isn't worth more than truth. Hold on to that. If this landed with you, then like and subscribe to the Quran Alone channel, with new videos every week looking at Islam only from the Quran and without centuries and layers of human interpretations. Like this, share it with someone asking similar questions.